Hello, Mr. Hunter. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
Good, good. So, you are here on the BeautyPro podcast. Thank you
Yes.
so much. So, we're just going to dive into it and tell everybody, who are you? This amazing guy who's doing all these amazing things. But
Thank
who
you.
are you? Who are you
Yeah,
for real?
absolutely. Yeah. So my name's Hunter Donia. I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I grew up in the burbs of Philly, but I actually just moved to Center City this past year, and I'm freaking loving it thus far. I started out in the industry when I was 15 years old. I did vocational school, and I got a job in a salon when I was 16 as a general assistant. Got onto the floor as soon as I graduated high school, and found some really beautiful success for myself in my business. And eventually, after going through brand education and teaching color around the country, started to really fall in love with teaching the business side of things so much more. I'm
Mhm.
such like an analytical theory person. Like, so in Pennsylvania, they actually discontinued the practical tests for your cosmetology license. So you just take the theory test now. Like you just like go onto a computer and like you just like answer questions. You don't actually have to like work on a mannequin or a model or anything like
Mm.
that. And when
Mhm.
that happened, I was like, hell yes. Like put me in front of a single choice, short text answer essay situation, and I am good. But like practical stuff like gives me so much anxiety. And so I just love using my brain so much more than I like love using my fingers, I guess you
I
could
love
say.
that.
And so I found myself just being super passionate about teaching business. And I didn't realize that the way that I was doing my own business and the ways that I found success in my own business would resonate with so many people. And things have just blown up since then. So I'm now teaching hairstylists how to automate and systematize their beauty businesses. And it's been a beautiful journey thus far.
Oh
So I
my
hope that
God.
that was like an okay
Yeah,
introduction.
that was okay. Honestly, like I was not even expecting that from you. Like you have actually been in this industry forever. Like
Yeah.
if you don't mind, how old are you now?
I'm 25.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What am I doing with my life?
Stop. That's ridiculous. I got a really early start, right? Like I
Right.
hear that a lot, but I got a really early start, I feel like.
So like what is it? Why this industry than something else?
Yeah. So before we hit record, you said that you wanted to go deep. So like
Mhm.
I don't know if it's too early for the listener, but
Let's
if
go, baby.
listener friend, if we're ready to go deep, I'll go deep.
We're going deep.
So so because so around the time that I decided to join vocational school, it wasn't too long before that that I actually came out as gay within my life, mostly to my peers and and like my friends and stuff like that. But
Right.
eventually, like I started to express myself wearing makeup and wearing more girl clothes and like doing my nails and coloring my hair. It was like a running joke with like a lot of my teachers, like what hair color will Hunter have this week, you know? And I'd be like going to Hot Topic and like using manic
Oh
and
Hunter.
wait, are
Di-
we
Oh,
good?
okay. Yeah, no, we're good. Oh no, my internet is unstable. We're gonna keep going though. We're gonna see
Okay.
how this goes.
Okay, cool. All right. If
Let's
we
see
need
if
to
this
like
makes the cut.
if we need to pause and restart, just let me know.
Okay.
So I was expressing myself a lot when I was like younger, first coming out of the closet and like exploring my sexuality and just
Mhm.
who I was as a person and expressing who I was on the outside, right? And you know, because of like my journey of coming out and navigating that, I didn't always like fit in a bunch of different circles and I was having a difficult time figuring out like where I belonged. And I had heard of my vocational cosmetology program. I've heard that my high school had that option.
Mhm.
And I was just so fascinated by it. And I was like, well, I really love like exploring makeup and hair color like on myself. Like, why don't I see if this would work for me? And I somehow, some way begged my parents to let me go. And they somehow let me go to vocational school. And it was really truly like the first place that I felt fully celebrated for who I was and like where I found people who had the same passion about like helping people express themselves with beauty and on the outside for how they felt on the inside. Like I really truly felt like I was with a group of people who where I belonged. With my parents, and they were able to see me be successful like with me expressing myself and who I was, and that gave them a lot of comfort with that, and it's just led to so much beauty in my life. And so truly like who I am is so embedded in the industry and vice versa. Like this industry is so
Mhm.
embedded in who I am in my story, and that's why I have such a strong why behind it, and that's why I do what I do today, and that's why I love doing it so much.
Oh
So
my God, I love that. I love that. Okay, so my next question, you probably already answered it, but what would you say was your biggest struggle to be where you are now?
ugh. There's so many struggles, dude. Like all the time. Like every like I don't know if you've experienced this or if you agree, but I feel like every new level of
Mhm,
who you are as a human being requires a struggle or some sort of discomfort to get to that next level, right?
mhm,
I think one of my biggest struggles up until this point has been being okay with taking risks.
mm,
It's so fascinating. So, like I shared, I'm 25 at the beginning of this, and whenever I say that, everybody's like, "What? That's crazy." But and so it might sound crazy to people who are hearing this, but it's just my truth. You
mhm.
know, as I've turned 25, I swear to God, like once I turned 24, like something like my frontal lobe must have just fully developed and like something just changed. Like I used to be like this cold, like little frigid boy, like all the time, and like used to be like freezing all the time. And then I turned 24, and all of a sudden I'm like a sweaty man. And like my body and my brain just like changed so much. And I'm just like hot all the time and I hate it. And it's just like so fascinating, especially now, how like when I was younger, I was so much less afraid of taking risks and so
Mm.
much less afraid of like putting myself out there and like not giving a shit about what anybody thought about
Mhm.
me. And that has been what is the driver of so much of my success up until this point. In the past year or so, I've noticed like me being much more timid and afraid to take risks,
Mm.
and a little bit more weary about what other people think of me, which is so fascinating. It's so interesting. And
I
so
love
right
that.
now, that's actually my current struggle. Is my current struggle is being okay and getting comfortable with taking more risks and seeing what happens. And instead of being so scarce and everything having to be so calculated, I want to just do it and be curious about it and see what
Mm.
happens.
Oh, I love that, and that's so that I feel like that's where I am too.
Yeah,
You're just kinda going with it. Let's just see what happens. If it works,
right.
great. If it doesn't, well, I failed forward. So, this is
Exactly.
great. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
no,
it.
coming from that mindset of like, you can't fail because you're gonna learn something, right? Or like whatever you do, even if it's quote unquote a failure, like it's setting you up for whatever is next. And that is so important to understand. I love that you just shared that. Fail forward.
Oh, yeah, fail forward, baby, all the time. The faster, the better.
Yes.
So, what's an important Um, from your experience up until today, now that you're 25, good lord, what is an experience that or trait, sorry, that you feel someone needs to nail it in order to be successful in our industry?
Being willing to embrace the discomfort.
Mhm.
Like, especially for our industry, like, I don't think that we understood what we were signing up for, especially in today's day and age, because things have changed so much. But especially for independent stylists out there or salon owners, I don't think that we were ever told how difficult being an entrepreneur would be. Like nobody told us that. And I think that simultaneously, I think that we, you know, have social media and we have all this education now, which is amazing. And we are so connected and we can learn so much, but we also are exposed to other people and other people's businesses and their circumstances and also their highlight reels, right? And
Mhm.
we oftentimes can compare ourselves to other people. And we see these like people with these awesome businesses and these awesome circumstances and doing these really cool things. And we're just like, we're so down on ourselves. And we think that like one day everything is going to be perfect. Like we
Mhm.
somehow, some way have this like, oh, if I just had this, or if I just get to this number, or if I just make this happen, then I'll be happy just like so and so. Right. And it's like, literally every single one of us, no matter if this person's life and business seems absolutely perfect, is always going to have a massive level of discomfort in your business, like no matter
Mhm.
what, like, and in your life as well, because times change, responsibilities evolve and they are consistent. I mean, I'm at a place where I have a team of 5 plus, depending on who you'd consider a team member, right? And I have a team of 5, right?
Mhm.
And you would think like with 5 people, like doing all the things that it takes to run my business, right? You would think that I don't really have to do anything. Like you'd think that I get to just like lay back and just like lay down the strategy and tell people what to do and it's great. But genuinely, like literally before I got onto this call, I was working my ass off all morning. you
Uh-huh. I
know?
believe it. I believe
Like
it.
there's still shit that you are going to have to do. There's still time going to be times where you're completely unmotivated, where you get burnt
Mhm.
out. Like you're never going to be you're as an entrepreneur, there's always going to be a new level of discomfort, but you get to decide how worth it is for you to keep going and the benefits that you get to reap from working through that discomfort. You get to decide whether that's worth it for you or not. And for me,
Mhm.
it's totally worth me working my ass off. It's worth the moments of burnout. It's worth the moments of like, damn, like I'm really nervous or I'm really
Mhm.
scared or I really don't feel like freaking doing this.
Yeah.
It's worth it for me because it brings me so much love and joy and it helps me make an impact in so many other people's lives. And so that discomfort, being able to weather that storm and that discomfort, I think is a massively important trait for success.
I'm so happy that you're sharing that and you're saying it the way you're saying it because I feel like a lot of people, they say, "Oh my god, yeah, I'm gonna be my own boss," and they're playing shop, and there's like, "You can do that, you go, baby, but
Right.
here's all the things that you gotta do."
Yeah.
So it's really not like that, and you do have to be comfortable in the discomfort. You have
Yes.
to, if you're gonna get
100%.
anywhere. So then how with all of that, how do you find the time, and how do you do this? Nourish yourself.
It's good. That's a really good question. And it's all about my what I teach. It's
Yeah.
systems, really. Like
Mhm.
I have ADHD, and I was privileged enough to be diagnosed with ADHD from like a pretty young age. I was in like second grade.
Mhm.
I mean, I was just so off the wall crazy that it was like, how could you not have ADHD, Hunter? I was truly like a devilish little kid. And with having ADHD, you're all over the place. Like literally, like last night, I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab my drink and my snack so I can come back here and sit down and like watch a movie or watch TV or something like that. Like this was literally last night. So I walk over, okay, I open up my fridge, I grab my Brita filter, and then I come over to my kitchen island, I grab my cup, and then I'm like, oh wait, but I have to refill my Brita filter. So then I refill the Brita filter, but I haven't even poured the Brita yet. So now I have to wait to pour the Brita. And then I grab my bag of chips and then I bring the bag of chips over to the couch, but then I forgot that I didn't fill back up my my cup of water.
Oh,
So then I have to so like that's like ADHD. That's my version of ADHD. That's how I like to
sure,
explain it to neurotypical people.
sure. That's
That's
perfect.
literally how my brain works. So it's been really difficult for me to have my own boundaries and the amount of time that I need to be able to function as a normal human being.
Mhm.
And through that, I've learned that how important systems that hold you accountable are and systems that keep you as organized as possible or make things as easy as possible for you to implement. They're so important for my life. Like I can't function as
Mhm.
an adult unless I have those systems in place. And not only do those systems hold me accountable to actually getting shit done, and not only do they make getting shit done easier, but they also hold me accountable to my boundaries as well. So
Mhm.
a really, really simple system, and because it is a system,
Mhm. Totally.
but it's a great example, is literally like before going to bed, like I put my phone in the other room and I go to my bedroom and I close the door, right? And that way I don't have my phone on me. I'm not going to be scrolling. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel good. I'm not going to be having that blue screen and doom
Mhm.
scrolling TikTok and blue light, I meant to say.
Yeah.
That's a simple system where it's like, I know when I go to bed, I'll be taking good care of myself and I'll wake up feeling good and I won't get distracted by my phone and scroll in bed for an hour before I actually get my ass up, right?
Yeah.
So I
And
think
that's
like
so simple. That right there is
exactly.
such a simple little thing, and obviously it's paying off for you because you're able to
Totally.
get some sleep to
No,
function for the next
literally.
day.
No, literally. So, like, time to nurture yourself, I think it's really important that you build systems around how you take care of yourself. You build systems
Mhm.
around your boundaries. You build systems that make things easier for you to accomplish your daily life, right? And the
Mhm.
tasks that you have in your business and in your life. And like another system is like my Google Calendar. I if it's not on the Google Calendar, it's not happening, right? So like
Mhm.
on Monday, and this does not have to be perfect, and I'm not always consistent with it. So like
Right.
don't overwhelm yourself thinking like listening to this, my friend, because I feel you. But like on most Mondays, I plan out my week and I will literally plan out like hour by hour what I'll be doing in my personal life and my work life. So that way
Mhm.
I literally built in the time and it's focused and I have something that's holding me accountable or it's easy for me to stay on task and not get distracted, right? So nourishing yourself and taking care of yourself, I think it's funny how taking care of yourself is it takes work, right?
Yeah.
I think that we oftentimes will think about taking care of ourselves as like vegging out and watching Netflix for a day. We'll think about it as like getting a massage or getting our nails done. But I think that taking care of yourself also requires actual work and thought
Yes.
sometimes. Like
Mhm.
productive self care, I think is important. And setting up those systems for yourself, yeah, it does take work, but it really allows you to have more wellness and long term wellness, right? And productive wellness in the end.
It's almost like you have to kinda self-parent,
Literally.
you know?
Yes.
And you said it before, like, you gotta be able to really forgive yourself for those moments that you're not rigid on the schedule. This is what we're doing.
Yes.
And I love that you said that because I know for me, that's something that I personally struggle with. If I set it, oh my God, it has to happen. I don't care how it happens. We are doing this today. And
Right.
that's so unrealistic because then you're like, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person or this or that because I didn't get this
Right.
done. We don't do that here. No
No.
more.
You're
This is
just
a new
trying your
year. No
best.
more. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, like you can set up a system and you can like have the intentions of it like setting you up for success. And if that doesn't happen, then you're like, okay, I tried my best. At least I tried the system. And like either that didn't work or you're just gonna try again and get right back on task, you know?
That's right. Yeah.
Taking care of yourself is also so taking care of yourself and being forgiving to yourself is
Right.
also so important as well, too, I feel like.
Do you feel like being 100% real and raw and self-honest, like honest with yourself is a huge factor in this?
Yeah. But humility is difficult.
Mhm.
I know
Yes.
for me, like, I
Yeah.
mean, like, I have like a huge ego, you know, and I
Yeah.
mean, but even being self-aware of that, you know what I mean? I think
Mhm.
that all too often we like to protect our brains from the discomfort or confronting of shame. I think shame
Mhm.
you know, Brene Brown very much
Love her.
popularized shame and normalized shame. I think that
Mhm.
you have to confront that shame to be able to, and you have to be able to be self-aware,
Right.
to be able to forgive yourself because there has to be some sort of understanding. You have to be able to say like, okay, like very literally, like this is what you're experiencing to yourself. And everybody experienced this. And this is, you're
Right.
just a human and you're just trying your best. Like to be able to first be aware of what's happening and look at it from a outside perspective almost,
Mhm.
and then be able to treat it in that sense, I feel like has been really powerful for me personally. I learned that from my therapist actually. My
Thank
therapist,
you.
yeah, big therapy, a big advocate for that, very much so.
Love it. I love it. Therapy, coaching, business
Yes.
coaching, like have it all so
Yes.
that you can, at least for me, that's how I see it. Like, yeah, I have my therapist, my coach, my workout coach, my business coach. Like, I need all these people to get me going.
Yeah. And
And
if
there's
that's
no
not
shame
just
in
to
that.
absolutely, and if that's not just to, like, get you out of your own head too,
Right.
right?
Exactly. 100%.
I th
100%.
I think the most, for me as a business coach, I think the most productive, coaching calls are always when I'm just asking questions and they're just,
Mhm.
like, getting all their words out, and I
Yes.
barely gave them any advice, and they already knew the answer, but it's like,
Exactly.
you need that type of facilitation, right? With somebody who you trust, who is aligned with your core values, who understands your in and outs, you sometimes you just need that type of facilitation to be able to get out of your head where all the emotions and all the swirling of thoughts are going, right? To be able to put it on paper or talk it out with somebody else
Mhm.
to really like realign, I feel like, and to tap
Mhm.
into that inner self that is so smart and beautiful and powerful that we all too often forget
Right.
about.
Exactly, exactly, I love it. Okay, what do you feel has we're gonna go back to failures. What do you feel is your biggest failure this far, and what did you learn from it?
Uh, um, well, I've been like reflecting a lot on 2023
Mm,
recently. So this is just what comes up for me recently. This is like
yeah,
top of mind. It may not be my
sure.
biggest failure, but it was a big one and it may not be like super deep or powerful, but I think it's really important especially for business owners who are listening to
Mhm,
this. So, um end of 2022. So I've had really great, quick, fast success in my business. And end of 2022, because of all of that success that I've had, and I've had a couple recurring successes up until that point, I
mhm,
kind of had like a expected trajectory of how things were going to go. Right? I was like,
right.
okay, like things are going well, like things are doing well and growing at this rate. So why
Mhm,
would it stop? Like, why would it not grow in the same way? If I just keep doing the same things, if I add on top of that,
right.
why would I not be able to replicate those results? Right. And end of 2022 was a big like wake up call that like, oh, like things change, life changes, business changes, the way that people spend money changes. Like it's
Mm,
crazy how things can change so quickly. And my numbers were still great. Like the revenue that I made and like everything that we did was fantastic. However, it still didn't meet my expectation, right? Like
mm,
it still didn't meet like the number that I thought I was going to make. I was like, "Oh my god, like my business is a failure. Like everything is trash. Like we have to shut it all down." And what ended up happening was, although I had like a really successful like end of my year, what ended up happening was the change really shook me up emotionally. Like it
mm,
really instilled a lot of fear in me and a lot of scarcity and it made me feel like I needed to change something or I needed to add something or I needed to like rip it all down, right?
mm,
Um and what I ended up doing was I ended up like adding in all these other things, right? I started to get shiny object syndrome and think like, "Oh, okay, well I also need this and I also need this and I also need that." And what ended up happening was I spread my focus and my efforts and my energy and attention way too thin,
mm,
away from like the main thing that was bringing the business the majority of the revenue just because I was so scared. And I think sometimes our brains we biggest self saboteurs of our own success
mhm,
when we get distracted or when we get off the proven repeatable path of what's bringing us the most success. And so an example of this could look like I see a lot of people like and this is like no judgment to anybody. And like, you just
Mm-mm.
got to see it and try it and see if it works for you, you know, like pop off and like figure it out yourself and test it and don't be afraid to do so.
Mhm.
But I see people who, like, let's say they have like built their business based upon like color as their specialty. Like, let's say like balayage or something like that. Right. So
Mhm.
they build their business based upon a balayage clientele. They do really well with it. They've been doing well with it for a while, but then all of a sudden, maybe they're not doing as well anymore. And maybe like things, the guest requests aren't coming in as much as they used to, or whatever it may be. So then they're like, okay, well, there must be something else I need to do. I need to go add in extensions. I need to learn how to do Reiki behind the chair. I need to learn. I literally like, I'm so serious. Like, these are things that I see, and
Yeah.
or I need to start a head spa. And it's like, no, like, like, I promise you, like, if you take the one thing that you have historical data of being successful in, things that you are extremely experienced in, and you maybe try to pivot that in one way or another instead of tearing that down
Mhm.
or like adding in all these extra things and getting distracted. I think that if you stay the path, then you can make really cool things happen for yourself. And for me, this past year, that was probably it was a massive lesson that I learned the hard way, that I should have focused on the main thing instead of getting distracted out of fear. And it proved it proved itself, what I learned from that proved itself to be true at the end of this past year, because I decided, I learned my lesson. I was like, screw that. I'm focusing on this one thing. And I focused 100% on it, and it was massively successful. And this year I'm going even more laser focused on the one thing, because
It's so
getting
exciting.
distracted because of fear or whatever it may be is not happening to me again. I like refuse.
No, that was good. That was so good because, and I do know stylists, owners, makeup artists that, and me personally, it's okay that you have all of these other interests that you want to do, whether it's Reiki
Absolutely.
or whatever it is. But what would you say to them who do have all these focus or all these interests, um, who they want to do it all,
Yeah.
but they do know that they have to pick one thing. What do you tell those people?
Well, it depends on the conversation that we're having.
Mhm.
If we're talking like super literally and strategically, if we're talking about like specializing in something, that's
Right.
like one conversation.
Right.
But I think like overall, like from a general
Yeah.
perspective, I think like whatever it is, like whatever the one thing is, right? I think you should just make sure that the original successful endeavor is as scaled as possible before looking into the other things. Like,
Mm.
the thing that is bringing you the most success up until this point, it should be fairly predictable at this point. It should be super easy for you. It should be something that is very mastered and systematized, something that is very easy for you to take care of. So, like, for example, when I transitioned from being behind the chair to starting my independent education business, or even, I guess, not even transitioned, when I just started my independent education business, I had taken my behind the chair business and completely blew it up in a beautiful way and systematized it, and it was so easy for me, and I just came in and just, like, did the hair that I loved, and it was just perfect. Like, it truly, like, was a fantastic circumstance, like,
Mhm.
truly, truly, of course, again, like I said earlier, it always is gonna have discomforts that we don't wanna do, but
Right.
truly, like, it was as scaled as possible for just being me, the one who was working in it. And once I had that in place, if I didn't have my behind the chair business like as streamlined and scaled as I had, and I started my independent education business like at the same time, not having it had been as scaled as it was, I would not have been able to give my independent education business the focus,
Mm.
attention, and love that it needed to get like a massive jump start. Like, truly. And I think that if I tried to start my independent education business like a year or two before, I would not have been in the place that I could have been to get as much success in the new endeavor, right? So it's about thinking about your time as your most precious resource and your focus and attention, right? Like you only have so much time that you can pour into something, and the amount that you pour into it is the amount that it's going to grow.
Mm.
And I think that when we spread our time too thin across multiple areas, they don't get the love and the support that they need to really
Mhm.
blossom to the place that we would like them to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, if one of our listeners, which again, no judgment, doesn't know who you are,
Uh-huh.
which I don't think that's the case, but just in case, can you share with everybody what it is that you are doing now and how you're making your money?
Yeah, sure. So, I have a full-time education business. We have programs online. So, what my main signature program is Pre-Visit Pathway, and that's a 8 to 12 week course in which we teach hairstylists how to streamline, automate, and systematize their business as far as their client communication goes, and how they book appointments and other procedural things and guest experience and stuff like that. And then we have this beautiful, amazing community called Modern Stylist Movement, which is an alumni only group of that program. And that's a membership in which we dive into more advanced business strategies. We have a bunch of live group coaching, one to one coaching with me. We have in person retreats, et cetera, et cetera. So those things are my main gig now. And I have a team that is amazing, and I could not do it without them. That takes up the majority of my time, teaching them how to be their best selves, and supporting them and supporting our hairstylists, our
Mhm.
people in our community. And I'm working 1 day a week behind the chair now. I actually am back in a team salon. So I was in a suite for a while, but I'm back in a team salon just because of how overwhelmingly important my education business is to me.
Mhm.
I just wouldn't be able to justify owning my own other anything right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
So now I'm in a team salon just doing 1 day a week. I found a salon 2 blocks away from me in Philly, and it's been fantastic. And I love that I get to still do hair. I love that I get to walk my talk. I love that I get
Right.
to relate to my students. I love that I get to be
Mhm.
like, yeah, I just had a client the other day and this is how I handled that situation.
Yeah.
And I love getting to connect with my clients and do hair. It's been fantastic. So yeah, that's my current situation.
Yeah. What common myth do you get or that you face every day about what you do?
I don't think people really understand um how intense the back end of everything is. Like
Yeah.
like I truly don't think people get how much effort and work goes into creating what I've created at this level. Like,
Yeah.
I think that, you could call me like an online business owner, and I'm seeing like a lot of just increasingly like more and more and more. I see so much like so many advertisements and like gurus and whatever like talking and it's like telling you about the magic of like selling a digital course and like creating passive income and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm here to tell you that like if you like want to actually number one make a real difference and impact in the world, right? Like
Mhm.
that's like what it really is all about. Like that's what it goes back to for me. Like going back
Mhm.
to my why behind like this industry and like loving it so much. Like at the end of the day, if you really give a shit about what you're doing and how you're like affecting other people and affecting change in the world and in our industry, and if you actually want it to work, like if you
Yes.
like if you actually want it to like work and make that impact and to make a change, but also for it to make you money, for it to afford you a life that you love, like a life that gives you the freedom and energy and flexibility and the wellness that you're looking for. It takes so much learning and so many challenges and so much unpredictability and risks and a lot of extra time and overtime to make it work. And I don't think that people truly understand that. And that's why I say like focus on the one thing until it's fully scaled, because if you don't have the space and time and energy to look into another endeavor, then it's not going to get the love and attention that it deserves for you to be able to make the impact that you want to make with whatever that new endeavor actually is.
Oh my goodness, yes. All right, so then what's an area of expertise in your area of expertise? What is it that no one agrees with you about?
Oh, there's a couple things. I'm pretty controversial, I feel like. I talk a lot about rethinking the way that we pre-book.
Mhm.
And I don't think that any of my ideas per se are necessarily original. I do think that I have a lot of original takes on them. I think I have a
Mhm.
lot of original ways that I implement them and I teach them because I've implemented them myself. I have true experience and I walk my talk with the things that I teach as far as concepts go. But I think rethinking pre-booking is one of the biggest like shockers, and the things that are like, what the hell are you talking about, Hunter? Um, and my thing with pre-booking is that I don't love solidly pre-booking yourself into the ground. I don't
Mhm.
love you being so book solid that like if you have to reschedule your clients, you're stressed out. So for example, like I remember like COVID times, right?
Yeah.
Like we were back to like some of us were back behind the chair and I was so terrified of getting sick, and it was not because of my own bodily health and the harm I may cause others if I get sick. It was because I was like, where in the hell are my clients going to go? Like, where are they going to
Oh,
go? Like, I'm going to have to work overtime to be able to fit these people in. Like, what am I going to
right.
do? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like, I'm booked
Yes.
solid for 3.5 months at a time. So where the hell are these people going to go if I get sick, if I have to reschedule? And I
Hmm.
just, I feel like that type of stress is unnecessary. And I feel like making sure that you have some sort of flexibility in your schedule where you can plan ahead. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on in 2 months from in my life from today. I get
Hmm.
people who make plans with me on a weekly basis. If I had children, I'm sure that their schedule and the things that would come up with them would change all of the time. So I think about like the moms out there, like
Hmm.
creating flexibility in your schedule, I think is so important. And I think that when you ask somebody to figure out what your client's life is going to be like in 3 months from today, I think it's an unreasonable expectation. I don't have. I did a survey of 500 women across the United States this past summer, and I asked them about this. I asked them, would you prefer to book your appointment when you're ready? Or would you prefer to book your appointment before you leave the salon? And the
Hmm.
majority of them would prefer to book their appointment when they're ready to, right? And the only reason why they're pre-booking themselves and they want to have that appointment before they leave the salon is because we pressure them to, and they
Hmm.
know that we're not going to have any flexibility if they don't. But how magical would it be if you had a more convenient experience for your client and a more convenient schedule for yourself in which you weren't solidly pre-booked into the ground, right?
Hmm.
And that's not to say that I don't pre-book some of my clients, right? I do pre-book some of my clients, but I'm not pre-booking them out so freaking far, and I'm also not pre-booking the ones that don't have like a high maintenance service with me. So like I know my gray root retouches, they cannot wait a week, right? Like they
Hmm.
cannot wait another 4 weeks. Like they need
Right.
in, right? But my like highlight clients, my balayage clients, my low maintenance color people, like they can wait another 4 weeks and they won't die. So like I have them like not pre-book with me, and I have my 4 weekers like pre-book with me still. And it's
Mhm.
just about rethinking the way that you're doing business and
Yeah.
doing it in an optimal way in which you're taking care of yourself. Again, this is where I talk about systems that allow you to
Hmm.
take care of yourself. It makes things easier. It holds you accountable. You're creating more flexibility that helps you take care of yourself, your own schedule, your family even, and then you're also providing your client a more convenient experience. And that is truly, 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 that's what everything I teach goes back to. It's creating a business behind the chair where you're playing it by your own terms and your own rules, but you're simultaneously creating a better client experience. Like you can
Hmm.
have both. Like you can have the best of both worlds, but it takes strategy and it takes setting up the systems in an optimal way to deliver on both of those things.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So here's a fun question.
Yes.
What insult have you ever gotten that you are currently so proud of?
Oh my god. Ooh, you're gonna have to let me think about that for a second.
Okay.
Okay, this might be like a off take. This might not be
Okay.
answering the question super directly or in a way that you'd maybe expect.
Okay.
So, I had so I have a podcast as well. I have the Modern
Yes.
Hairstylist podcast. And for a while, I had a co-host. She was my marketing manager, and her name is Caitlin. I freaking love her. She doesn't work for me anymore, but we have a great relationship, and it was a fantastic time having her work with us. And I actually had her come on as my podcast co-host. She spoke like 10% of the time, and I would speak 90% of the time. She was kind of
Okay.
like a facilitator for me. Like it was like
Okay.
she was a system for me to help me stay on track with my ADHD. She really helped me, get through the episode. And she also had really beautiful, valuable feedback because she herself is a hairdresser. So anyway, I got a review on my podcast. It was a 2-star review, and it was my first bad review on the podcast. And it was like, I really wanted to love this podcast, but he never lets his guests speak. Like, if you even have a guest on, like, why are you not letting them speak? And I was like, oh, I have not done a good enough job of explaining Caitlin's role
Right.
for the podcast, right?
Uh-huh.
So it was my first like 2-star review, and I was very like, damn, like that kind of sucks. Like that stings a little bit.
Yeah.
But it taught me a massive lesson about number one, being clear across the
Mhm.
board and taking your users and client customers' experience into consideration, making sure that you're thinking about their journey and what thoughts may come up as they're going through it, and being clear as far as setting expectations go, but also the value of negative feedback.
Mhm.
Right? Like, there is so much value and opportunity in negative feedback. Like, if that person never left me a 2-star review, right? If that person didn't have, I don't know, the gumption to leave me that, right? Then
Yeah.
I would have never known that maybe there's other people who are listening who are thinking the exact same thing, but just not speaking up about it. And so
Mhm.
that was an insult that I was really proud of how I handled it. I was really proud of
Yeah.
how I saw that, and yeah, it stung a little bit, but I used it as a learning opportunity and I was able to extract the lessons from it?
Mhm. Oh, I love that. That you must have been I mean, getting a two-star review, that sucks no matter what it is, but then to just like, "Oh my god, no, she's my co-host."
Yes.
It's
Well, and then
so
also,
funny.
dude, no, then also, so then I was like, oh my God, like maybe they're right. Like, cause I rarely have guests on my podcast because of just like the way that the numbers work. Like, whenever I have
Sure.
a guest on my podcast, I get less listeners, which is so annoying because I have like amazing guests who come on. But I was like, maybe they're right. So then I started like listening back to my guest interviews that were like
Aw.
on my podcast. And I was
Yeah.
like, pretty sure I'm like letting these people talk. And then I asked my team, I was like, am I crazy? Like, then I was like, wait, no, they're talking about Caitlyn. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, so yeah. I was like, I hope they don't think I'm like an asshole to
Oh
Caitlyn because like I
my god.
love her and I love when she speaks on the podcast. But this is just like how the setup is.
It
This
just
is just the
happens that way. That's so funny. Okay, so what is the lesson that you wish, I don't know, like the mailman would learn from what like that you have learned being a hairdresser?
um okay. Again, not sure if I'm answering your question in the way that like
You totally are though. You totally are. So
am
just
I?
just go for it. Yes.
So I teach my students not just the things that help me in my own business, but also the things that as a consumer, like I personally
Right.
really prefer.
Yeah, totally.
Dude, I wish that I was able to book online everywhere so bad. I wish that I was able to non-confrontationally share information with service providers and the people who I do work with ahead of time before I actually get the service done. So for example, I teach something in my program where my students can customize I'm sorry, my students allow their clients to customize their experience, and they do that by letting them know with a digital form prior to coming into the salon.
Right.
So you're able to choose like whether or not it's going to be a silent experience or if it's going to be a more
Mm.
talkative experience, what essential oils they want to smell that day, like
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. And for me, even getting my hair done, like I love all of the people who have ever done my hair. Like all my hairdressers are fantastic. So shout out to you if you're listening to this. But like I would have like sometimes like I've set a rapport with them in which like I came in a really talkative way, you know, like I was like, hey girl, like what's the tea? Like loved like catching up, like loved
Yeah.
like gossiping, loved talking, you know.
Yeah.
But then some days I walk in and I'm like, I am not in the mood. I just kind of want to shut up, or like I want to pull out my laptop and I have work to get done and I really need to focus on it while I get my hair done, right?
Mhm.
So, but I'm not gonna, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to tell my stylist that. Like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to sound rude. I don't know how to
Right.
like come about that. I'm too nervous of a human being to do that, you know? So, like, I wish all the systems that I teach, I wish that all these freaking people would adopt it. Tattoo artists, dude, if tattoo artists just had digital forms and if they had online booking, like, oh, it would be so much better for all parties involved. Like, I promise you, dude, it would be so much better. So, you're a tattoo artist listening to this, dude. I will set your shit up for free, bro. Set it up for free. That's how much I want you to have this shit.
I love it. Oh my God, I love this so much. Okay, what do you have going on right now or upcoming that
Yeah.
that people can apply to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we actually have pre-visit pathway at the time of recording this. We have open and closed enrollment, and the reason why is because we like to have everybody go through as a cohort. Um, and we find that the community and the cohort going through the progress together, the program together, creates the best results for everybody. So
Mm.
we like to close and open. So depending on when you're tuning into this, my friend, we may or may not be open. We open twice a year. Nonetheless, how you can tune into what we have going on is definitely with the podcast, and you can always visit hunterdonia.com. And there we're always releasing resources, tips, tricks, et cetera, for what we got going on in the moment. So right now,
Got it.
I'm pumping out good podcast episodes. Like,
You're
Kristen, do you
so
ever,
proud of it. I love it.
dude? Yeah,
Yes.
no. Do you ever feel like that? You're like,
Yes.
damn, like everybody needs to hear
Yes.
these episodes.
Yes. Like you're
That is
so
how I
pumped about
feel.
it.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
podcast is like a really big thing that I'm focusing on a lot, and we're churning out some really awesome content right now. So the
I'm
podcast is a great
excited.
place for people to hang out right now, I feel
I'm
like.
excited. And listeners, all of Hunter's links are going to be in the show notes. So you will have access to all of the goodies.
I
Okay.
love it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
So now we only got a couple minutes left. My last and final question is, what is something that you wished I would have asked you, and what would you have responded?
Such good questions, dude. I
Thank
can't.
you, baby. I try.
Dude, I can't. These are really, really good questions. Um, I don't know. You know what I will say? Um, I'll say that I really, I love talking about what I do. I love talking about
Mhm.
systems. I love talking about automation. Like I love especially for when I go onto other podcasts, because it's important for me to like cover the bases of like all the things that I teach. So that
Yeah.
way, if somebody new to me is listening, they understand who I am and what I do. But what I will say is that I love personal questions, like, because it's so
Oh,
refreshing, you know?
yeah.
And so I appreciate you getting a little bit deeper with me. Like I appreciate you starting out with
Mhm.
like me as a human being versus like just like all the strategies and the tactics and things like that. So
Aw.
I think you asked it. I think like you started this out really beautifully, and I really appreciated our having this space to speak today. So
Good.
thank you so much
Oh,
for having me on.
good. You are so welcome. Thank you for being here. It's a huge honor. But I that's how I feel. Like we are human beings first, and
Yes.
then we're creative beings, which is like whole other level in comparison to the rest of the world. So we
Yeah,
have to approach things a little bit differently,
I agree.
and who we
Yeah,
are at home shows up in who we are in the salon, and they have to be on the same page. So
I agree.
oh my goodness. Thank you, Hunter, for this call. I'm so excited for our listeners. They're going to love it.
Yes.
And I can't wait to collaborate with you next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. Anybody who's trying to make a difference in the industry, in one way or another, is a friend of mine. So it was an honor to be on here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Kristen. Thank you so much to the listener.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it so much.